So when we've survived child sexual abuse, that legacy remains with us throughout our lives, especially if it's overt versus covert abuse, which means that there was actual contact of a sexual nature, and certain factors that make it worse is if it is with people you already know very well. So a lot of the times we do teach kids about good and bad touch, but we also should teach them that there are limits to love and certain acceptable and unacceptable ways of showing love, and to not be just scared of strangers, but also to be very in an age appropriate manner. We can convey to them that this is their body and no one can touch them in certain ways, in certain places, without their without yeah. So when you have survived child sexual abuse, there is emotional abuse and verbal that goes along with it, and there is the threat of physical abuse. So in a lot of cases, that person, if you already know and trust them, they don't even have to frighten you, because you live in this dynamic where just them being like you being dependent on them or you trusting them, you kind of don't, especially if you haven't been educated, you don't know what's happening. Even if you are, it's really hard to speak up as a kid, to find the vocabulary to even know. And you may know that there is something wrong, but you may not know why you feel that way. But it feels like your entire world is in chaos, and so shall it remain. So you get to a place where you don't feel safe, especially if you don't feel safe in your own surroundings. Then you develop all these coping mechanisms to be always hypervigilant, to be frightened all the time. So there is this permeating chronic sense basically of uneasiness, dread, like something bad is going to happen all the time, because the final sanctuary that you have is your body, and that itself has been desecrated. So it is called soul rape for a reason. So I've been reading on this for a long time, and the good thing about having studied law is that I don't believe any other profession has, which is that I can read literally, like yesterday I read like a 250-page book literally in like a day. So I can quickly research things and understand depending on the text. I can't read like fiction that quickly because I go slower with that. But if it's like knowledge, it's not like too technical, then I can totally like read it. Depends on what kind, and if I'm used to reading that kind of stuff. So ask away if you have any questions on this. But the legacy of child sexual abuse is a grave and disturbing reality for the survivors, and our society doesn't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable to talk about these things. It's uncomfortable to believe that these things are happening to the children around us. But the official statistics say it is 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 10 boys according to RAIN, which is the US Center for Statistics on this. But that is probably grossly underreported. The same way narcissism, BPD is grossly underreported. There's no way it can be 1%. Similarly, there's no way that can be 10 to 20%. Um, so, uh, what is one way to get out of that is you will notice that your baseline is a state of fear, a state of vigilance, anxiety, and eventually you become irritable because eventually you can't take all that stress. So you start just dissociating from people, isolating yourself, and the shame and the anger becomes rage. And it's like difficult, very deadly cocktail of emotions that keeps simmering under the surface for years and years until it becomes like lethargy, fatigue, just feeling drained all the time, feeling exhausted. Normal interactions or simple interactions seem very, very difficult. Because everything can trigger you, and it helps to give those emotions that space, whether through journaling, whether through letting our inner child get those things that we didn't get. So often, when your childhood is taken away from you too young, then you kind of stay like a child in certain places, certain parts of yourself, and you're not able to play as an adult the way you'd want to. In terms of the child in you wants to play, but there are not that many opportunities. So finding those opportunities is super important because the world, the society we live in, does not cater to that. And we're told that it's normal to just keep working, it's normal to just be this way, but I don't think it's normal. I think animals in the wild play, so we need to play every single day, to laugh, to jump around, to just prance around, to skip around, to dance, to be free. And that is what we've lost in the modern day and age. So finding that, finding our voice is really important. Learning to stand up for yourself, but also finding those environments that are conducive to standing up for yourself. And usually, like, typical environments are not conducive for that. So realizing all these things certainly helps. Trust issues are very common, intimacy issues, sexual issues are common. Feeling guilty, feeling bad, defective, that there's something wrong with you. Taking in the blame from the pain and the secrets that you've kept as a child. It is very, very isolating to live in that reality, and even though there are people around you, the secrets and the pain creates this distance where it feels like your reality is totally different and not what the people around you are living, where they're in school or at work, wherever. And because there's such a big stigma about it, no one wants to talk about it, so you just kind of learn to hide away more and more. So it's really like helpful to change that baseline through affirmations, through meditation, through constantly 4 or 5 times a day doing things that take you to this baseline that creates positive dopamine, positive emotions, oxytocin, endorphins that regulate the normal neurotransmitters in your brain. And medication and traditional therapy often doesn't work because you're coming from a pre-conscious state where A, you don't trust the therapist, B, like just talking about these things, it just like, where is it going? So finding your own journey, your own things that work for you after trying many things, not just believing whatever like the mainstream rhetoric is saying this is going to work, is really important. So yeah. So I kind of became a lawyer so I could help people in similar circumstances, and I hope to establish like centers where children and women and people who have been abused, who have mental illnesses, can basically go and live there free of cost or subsidized, so that they can be in safe environments where they actually have the ability to evolve and grow. So yeah, that's like something I will be developing in the future. So please do support my channel if you think that it is helpful to you. Yeah. So I'm gonna sign off and end this video. These were just some thoughts that came along, but yes, the path is difficult, challenging, and it helps to have allies on the way. So sexual abuse often comes with emotional, verbal abuse through intimidation, through a slow process where you are where abuse is normalized. So either you're told to keep quiet, but in a lot of cases, if the person is close to you, you don't even need to be told that, because you're acutely aware that there is an equilibrium in your environment, that you are dependent on these people around you, that they are adults, they're like gods, and you're a little child, you're like, you know, however old, usually like 5 to 17, but usually like even more probabilistically like 4 to 15, in that age group. So your ability to do much is severely curtailed by, if you're isolated emotionally, if you feel disconnected to the people around you, the grown-ups especially, if you feel like recourse is not the answer. We need to equip our children to be able to face these issues. This is such a difficult topic to talk about. I understand why no one wants to talk about it. It's just like, it's getting like shoulder aches from talking. So I'm going to end this video here, but I am Story Sensei. I create cosmic flow that flings open the doors of your perception. So keep watching my channel and support me if you like what I do. Ta-ta, bye-bye.